Good morning, everyone. I'm Katie Bertrand with So Cute by Katie here in Louisville, Kentucky. This morning I thought I would do a little video showing how to read and cut a commercial pattern. I was at Hobby Lobby the other day and was just getting some fabrics and then got totally distracted that the McCall's patterns were on sale, so I just started flipping through the book and got some patterns. And while I was standing in line, you start talking with other people, and one of the ladies that was buying something that was in line with me was saying that her daughter is in high school and she's really wanting to learn how to use a commercial pattern. So I was trying to give her some little tips and tricks and kind of what to start with. So I just thought it would be a good idea to do that with you guys. So if you do some sewing but you have never used an actual commercial pattern, I was going to show you one that I'm cutting out and getting ready to make. But before you get started, you do need to know a few things so that you do buy the correct pattern and that you do cut it out correctly, because if you don't have the right size and then those kinds of things, what you make is not going to turn out well. So if you're a beginner sewer, you can go to, let's see, Hobby Lobby, Joann's. They have pattern books, and McCall's patterns are on sale for $1.99 at Hobby Lobby. So if you want to go over there today, because they're closed tomorrow, get them on sale. But beginner sewer, look for patterns that are not a lot of detail. There is even a section that says easy. So I would start with something like that, something a little more loose-fitting shirts, pajama pants, things like that are good for beginner sewers. So you don't want to get into, hey Connie, how are you? So you don't want to get into a lot of fitting for your first pattern go around. No matter what you make, making clothes is totally different than buying something off the rack. More than likely you're always going to have to do a little bit of alterations, maybe a lot of alterations, because just how you put things together. So this is one of the patterns that I got. It's right here. And when you buy patterns, they will have different views, or what they're called, different styles. So I'm actually going to make the one that's actually on the model. It's kind of got, it's in a fuzzy fleece, and then it's kind of got like a little poofy sleeve right down there. But this is probably an easy pattern because it's loose. It's kind of like a sweatshirt. More like a stylish sweatshirt, I guess. But if you see the other views here, there's a V-neck. I know my light's green. There's one that's got like crisscross laces, things like that. And then when you get your patterns along the side right here, there's multiple sizes. So this pattern is for these sizes, and then there'll be another pattern for the larger sizes. So there's usually, like an A and a B pattern. So the first thing you need to do when you're looking at your patterns, you do need to know your measurements. So before you go to the store, you need to take your measurements. You need to take your bust, waist, and hip measurements, because that is what's on the pattern, and that's what you need to start with, so you know which pattern size that you need and which one to get, and then which size to cut out. So I'm going to put my readers on because I cannot read this small print anymore. So on this particular pattern, they're printed differently, so it depends on the patterns. On the back of the pattern, there's all kinds of information here. So it will tell you how much fabric you need. It will tell you the measurements that you need. It will give you suggested fabrics to use for that pattern. So that's another thing that's important, is the suggested fabrics. So the first thing on this pattern, and I hope you all can read this, but on the little flap, this is actually tucked in here, so you may not even see it right away. It's tucked in. And it should have it in the pattern book too. Sometimes you gotta go actually find it. So when you're flipping through the pattern books, each pattern will have a number. This is the pattern number. Then you go over to the little drawers and you look up this number to pull this pattern. So this is the number that matches the book. So then, hey Lynette, so then right here on this one, sometimes they're printed on the back. This one's folded on the little flap that was tucked inside the pattern. Right here it has your sizes. So this pattern is, it shows you the measurements size 6 to 22, and then it will show you right here, it says bust, waist, and hip. So you will have to follow along here, whatever your bust measurement is, whatever your waist measurement, and whatever your hip measurement is. Now, our measurements are going to be all over the place because unfortunately, no one is sized just perfectly, or 99% of us are not. So that is another thing that you need to consider when you are looking at your measurements. So it depends on what you're making, you need to go with the largest measurement. Typically for tops, you really just want to look at the bust and the hip measurement. The waist isn't as important in a lot of things. Dresses are a little, if it's a fitted dress, you need to see what the style of the dress is. Is the style of the dress fitted in the bust, but it's kind of A-lines out at the hip? Then if that's the case, you really just want to focus on the bust measurement, not the hip measurement, because it's going to be loose and flowing around your hips anyway. So if your hips are much larger than your bust line, if you have a dress pattern that's not fitted around the hips, you don't really need to be as concerned about it. So this is the top, so I'm more concerned about my bust measurement. And for me, I am basically straight up and down, so I have no shape. So I am larger in the top and basically straight up and down. So I will find bust measurement. So I'm going to go over here. So you will slide right over here, look at your bust measurement, and then find your size, okay? So then once you find your size, that is going to determine how much fabric you need to buy. So let's say bust measurement for 36 with a size 14. Now that's the other thing. Don't freak out because pattern sizes are not retail garment sizes. This is not what you purchase in the store. This clothes we buy off the rack are more vanity sizes. So just be like, I always wear, an 8 or a 10. This is telling me I wear an 18. You don't get stuck on that. You just need to follow this. This is strictly for pattern making or pattern cutting. So now that we know we need a size 14, it will tell you, then you need to look at the style that you're making. So this right here tells me I am making view A. Each one of these pictures has a letter to it. So which style, because certain styles will require more or less fabric. You also need to know how wide the fabric is off the bolt. Now this particular pattern, the fabric suggested is for knits. Sweater knits, ponte, novelty knits, cotton knits. So you need a stretch fabric. So you do not want to go buy a cotton and try to make this because it's going to be too tight and it's not going to look right and it won't hang right. So most knits are 60 inches wide. Most cottons are like 45. So right here on the pattern, it is telling me, 60-inch wide fabric, and then, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get that light, sorry. Can y'all see that better? Okay, that's better. So this right here, 60-inch wide fabric. I'm doing view A, and for the size 14, you will slide over, and it's telling me I need 2 yards. 2 yards of fabric right there. So that's how much fabric you will need to purchase for your size. So then you take that over to the counter, and if you're having trouble, anybody that works at the fabric store, they can help you, but again, it depends on how busy they are. So you need to just have an idea and kind of know what you need to get. So you got your fabric. The other thing is, then you get your fabric, you will cut out your pattern pieces. So I've already got some things cut out. So your pattern pieces, they come in this tissue, which is all, these are my extra pieces, I'll pull this out. So you pull this out and you've got all these tissue pattern pieces, like this. This is the pieces I don't need. They're already cut out. So you want to unfold this. It's kind of like origami, trying to get them folded back. and each piece has a number to it. And then also your pattern pieces, as you can see right here, these little lines, the dotted lines, they represent different sizes, okay? And they will have a number and tell you. So like 14 was the number that we were looking at, and so you will find the number, and that's how you will cut right on the line. Let me get that out of my way. Trying to fold up pattern pieces is crazy. Okay, so then once you open your pattern, you've got your pattern instructions. So this is your instruction booklet. It tells you what pattern pieces you need to cut out for the view that you're making. It tells you how to lay it out, and then it tells you how to construct the garment. Okay, so here's our instructions. Top A right here. Let me see if I can. Oops. Okay, so this is what this looks like. This is where it tells me what pieces I need to cut out, right here. So view A, and it's telling me I need pieces 1, 2, 3, and then 7, 8, 9, I think. And then this picture right here is showing me how to cut out the cut out the pieces, how to lay them out and cut out your pieces, okay? So most of the time, if you have a top, your bodice piece, more than likely the front, almost always, as long as it doesn't button up. If you don't have any buttons or anything, if it's a pullover, it needs to be placed on the fold. Hey, Cindy. So, this is my bodice piece, okay? So I've already cut this out, and this needed to be on the fold. So the fold, I've got, my fabric was laid out like that, and this is super fuzzy fabric. Let me take this pattern off, and I'm going to show you. Oops. So I'm using this like super fuzzy kind of Sherpa, and fuzz is everywhere. I'm like, it's all over the floor, all over the table, everything, and all over me. You see that flying? Okay, so you cut your pattern piece on the fold because this is half of your body, all right? And then once you open it up, then you have your front or back piece. And one or the other will be cut like that. Not every time, but a lot of the times you'll have a piece that needs to be cut on the fold because it's going to open up. So that's what that means. Something else that is very important that you got to pay attention to. Let me grab it right here. Is when you are cutting out your pattern pieces. Does this one not even have it on here? You have a grain line, and that pattern piece, why is that not on there? Okay, well let me show you this. On my pattern piece right there, it tells me place on fold right there. It's got little arrows and everything. So that's a little reminder, as well as your picture, the diagram on the instructions. And let me open up this sleeve piece. So you gotta cut out your pattern and then kind of follow the instructions on your pattern pieces. So all your pattern pieces should have what is called a grain line. And let's see. It's this line right here. It's got a little arrow, okay? So what the grain line means is when you lay out your fabric, all the pieces have to be going the same direction, okay? So you cannot have one piece that has a grain line going up and down, and then your other piece laid out this way where the grain line's going that way, horizontal. Because one, you have knits, the stretch of the fabric has to stretch around your body, not up and down. The other important thing is if you're using a pattern, depending on the pattern, if the pattern is one directional, it's not like an all over, you want to make sure that you've got it going the right direction, up and down. You can't have one piece laying this way and one piece like this, because if you've got like a pattern going this way, it's going to be sideways. And also the stretch of your fabric, depending on what you have. So it's very important to make sure you pay attention to those as well. Okay. So now, going back to your pattern pieces, so after you get your tissue cut out and laid out, you want to pin it to your fabric, and then this is kind of, it gives you an idea how to lay it out on your fabric. This is your little guide right here of how to lay it out on the fabric, and it will tell you that for each view. So even on your instructions here, again, it has, each style has a letter, and then there's a section for each style to tell you which pieces you need and how to cut it out. And then once you open up, then you got your instructions on the inside. And it tells you step by step, and it will tell you view by view. So a lot of times, for all of these views, you're going to sew the shoulders and the sides together, but then it will come up here, and then the next instruction says for view C only. So depending on which one you're doing, you're going to have to skip and find your next step. Okay? So that's how you get started using commercial patterns. It's not hard, but you do have to pay attention. I like, when I sew, I feel like it's putting together a pattern, or, a puzzle. So I'm not good with reading directions. I like to just start going because I know how the pieces go together because I've sewn long enough. So you'll get familiar with what the pattern pieces look like, what a bodice piece looks like, what the sleeve pieces look like, because they always look the same. And then each piece has notches, and that shows you how to connect your pieces. Let me see if I can find a notch on here. Well, the shoulder seams, they've got dots, and that's kind of to gather in from here to here. Here's a notch. On my bodice piece, you've got these little triangles. These are called notches, and you'll cut that out. So when you're cutting, you'll cut right along this and then cut a triangle out. That way you have something to match up the front to the back. So I can usually put things together. I can get pretty far along, and then I go back and read the instructions, because that's just how I can look at the pictures and kind of figure it out. Versus reading the instructions. And I will warn you that sometimes, even as long as I've been sewing, how they word things is crazy. And I don't know who writes these things, because sometimes you're like, I don't understand. I do not get what you're trying to tell me. So always go back and look at the pictures, because it's just a little black and white drawing, and they kind of like put some shading to one side to show you the wrong side of the fabric. But sometimes just trying to understand what they're trying to tell you, it doesn't make sense. And so if you look at the picture and read the instructions sometimes, then all of a sudden, and then get the actual fabric, the actual piece itself, and kind of see what it's doing. Oh, At Home with Missy says she's late. Oh, don't worry. I was like, you can always go back and watch it. I can't see the rest of that comment. Let me see if I can read the rest of that, Missy. Oh, no. I'll have to read it later. I'm sorry, Missy. I can't read all of that. But that's what always kind of hung me up when I was trying to follow the pattern. I was like, you can kind of piece it together, but sometimes just be warned, you do need to look at the pictures and read the instructions if you're getting hung up on something. If you're working on something and you need some help, that was the other thing when I was learning to sew. I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have anybody to ask. My dad could actually sew. My grandmother sewed all the time, but she lived in Western Kentucky 4 hours away from me, so that didn't do me any good. So I didn't have anybody to ask. So a lot of times when I got to a point where I literally just could not figure it out and no one else could figure it out, then that's when the project ended and I went back to the fabric store and started something else. So a lot of unfinished project because I just couldn't understand what was going on. So if you ever get to a point and you are like, I'm working on something and I don't get what it's trying to tell me, if you want to shoot me a message, I might be able to help you. I'll be glad to try to help you, because that is a big factor, is having someone to be able to show you how to do it. I'm a much better visual learner. That's why I look at pictures versus reading it. If somebody can just show me, I've got it. So if you have trouble making something, or if you're working on something and you just don't get it and you haven't found the video on YouTube or something, shoot me a message. I'll see if I can help you. So I'm going to work on this today. I think I might do kind of a video and have it as a sew along later. I'm just going to record it. I'm not going to do it live. That way, if anything bad happens, I won't have it live. But it's a pretty easy pattern, and it's I'm excited to get it done too, because it's really soft and snuggy fabric. And I got this at Hobby Lobby, so super fuzzy, and there's literally fuzz all over my table. And see, you can see it on my hand right here. Like, see, it's like it's snowing. So the other thing is, you know, if you are new to sewing, you do want, if you don't have a serger, and what a serger is it does overlock stitching on the edges. If you look at inside of any of your clothes, especially any knit clothing, you'll see this like overlock stitching. That's so your clothes, it doesn't pull apart. So if you don't have a serger, it's not a big deal, but you might want to go back after you do your straight stitching just along that edge and do put your sewing machine on a zigzag stitch, and then just zigzag along some of those edges. That just reinforces it. That keeps it from fraying, so when you wash your garment, it's not like, looks like a big ball of yarn on the inside, because it will, depending on what it is, it will fray out. And especially on this particular fabric, knit is really good. It won't fray out, so you don't need to do that. But on my fuzzy fabric here, having the serger is good, because then it will eliminate all that fuzziness, you know, from getting all over the place. I may not keep it controlled 100%, but it will help a lot. So I hope that you all enjoy this, and if you are into sewing and you have not tried commercial patterns, just look for some easy patterns. Pajama pants are really good. If you all would like to do a sew along with some pajama pants or shorts, let me know, because that might be something I might consider doing, because it's a beginner project. It's always good to start a project, you know, that that you'll use. You always feel more accomplished when you have something that you can give to somebody, or something that actually you can wear. You're like, wow, I made that, look at that. So like elastic waist shorts or pajama pants are great, or even just like, you know, what I'm making, a loose fitting top, like a sweatshirt top. So so don't go crazy. We all want to be fashion designers and make all this cool stuff, but you know, just start easy, ease into it. And even some of the other things that I've made, you know, the more detail, I like things that don't take me very long, because I don't want to spend all day doing it. I do feel a little more accomplished, but I also like to just get it done. And Judy said she'd like to see a pajama pant demo. Well, I might go, I've got some patterns. I'll look for a pattern, that way I can show you which pattern it is. That way, if y'all want to get that particular pattern, but really all pajama patterns or pant patterns like that, whether you make it into shorts or pants, are basically the same. So I'll check that out and see if I can't get us just, you know, a McCall, you know, Simplicity McCalls, anything like that. And those are always going to be in the sleepwear section, or probably even in the easy section of the pattern books. So, and those are great gifts. You cannot go wrong with giving somebody pajama pants, you know, if you want to make something for somebody else. And everybody's always impressed, you know, when you say you've made something, I don't care what it is, whether you painted it, sewed it, woodwork, whatever. It's always fun to say that you made it, and because people, you know, not everybody has that skill, so it's super fun. Okay, well, I'm going to get started on making this top, so I'll be back later and show you the finished product. I've actually got to go run my son somewhere. That's why I'm not going to do it right now. You know, always got to take the children somewhere. So I will work on this later. I'll show you the finished product, and I'll probably do a little video. And Cindy said, I need to learn something simple so I can teach my nieces. Well, Cindy, if I do a video, just get your nieces and you all watch it together. That's what I would do. Just, you know, sit down and do it together. That way you've got some extra instruction to show them. And then you can show them the video where they can go back and watch it. That's one of the biggest things. You know, if I had YouTube growing up, I would probably never left the house, because I would have just been making stuff all the time. but I even now I buy videos or like on Craftsy, which now they've changed it to Blueprint, I think. They've got videos for everything, any kind of crafting. Even now, I like to get a video and just, kind of watch how something's done. I've gotten into quilting, so I've purchased some quilting videos because I don't have time to always go somewhere to take a class. And so it's easier for me to do it on my time. And, either like this morning, I got up and was having my coffee. I'm like, well, I'm just going to go downstairs and start cutting some pieces for my quilt, at 7:30, 8 o'clock this morning. So if I can, watch my video, and sometimes I watch while I'm like doing the treadmill, like I just kind of watch, and then I can go, if I, can watch something, and then when I'm actually going to do it, if I need to go back and watch the video, it's helpful. So I'm going to start doing that more often. So, and Missy says she loves videos. Yep, they're super helpful. Yeah, how do we learn to do anything? We get on Pinterest, we find our ideas, and then we figure out what supplies we need, and if there's some kind of instruction. If there's no instruction, we wing it and make it happen. So I will be back later and show you my finished top, so I'm excited about it, and I hope you all enjoy your day wherever you are. I hope there's not too much snow. We got a little bit of snow, but not enough to make my children happy, so the roads are perfectly fine, but enough to a couple inches, like 2 inches maybe, to cover the grass, but not enough to really cover the roads or anything. So I will chat with you guys later. Bye.